Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Nurse Ty, and on my channel I like to talk about nursing, traveling, and everything in between. So in today's video, we'll be going over part 2 of the 5 things I wish I knew before becoming a travel nurse. So if you want to learn more, just stay tuned. Number 6 is insurance. So when you become a travel nurse, typically most people have like the common misconception that travel nurses don't have insurance, which is completely false. So when you sign up with your travel company or your travel agency, they will be the ones providing your insurance. Most travel companies or travel agencies do day 1 coverage. So as soon as you become signed on or like hired on, basically once you sign your first contract, it doesn't even have to be before you actually start working, but just as long as you have a job secured with them, they will provide you day 1 travel insurance. Now, things that I wish I knew before this is if you're switching companies, like say you want to do an assignment in this city with one company and you want to do a second assignment in a different city with another company, then your insurance only covers you with that one company that you stay with. And say if you even do multiple assignments, like say I'm in Washington now with my same company and then I go to Denver with the same company. If I take like a gap in between travel assignments, then my insurance will lapse. So typically the travel insurance will give you like a 30-day grace period after you finish your initial assignment or your last day of work. And then if you happen to sign on to another assignment, then your insurance continues with no breaks. Whereas if I were to take like a travel break and want to travel for 2 months and then come back with the same company, my insurance would lapse after like 30 days. So basically, if you're with the same insurance company, if you're with the same travel company, your insurance is only valid while you're on assignment and then you have a 30-day grace period. Or if you switch different travel companies, then your insurance switches to whatever insurance that company is offering. The seventh thing I wish I knew before becoming a travel nurse was floating. You will float all the time. Float, float, float. So if you don't like floating, if you don't like going to different units that aren't your own, I suggest travel nursing is not for you, because one of the things you will mostly do is float. So in my previous job, I did have charge experience. Now, when I was a charge nurse, one of the things that you do is actually to make assignments for the oncoming shift. So we had, or most hospitals will probably have a list of who will float first. For us, travelers always floated first, and then it would be like anyone who was like PRN or staffing, we would call. And then basically the last people to float would be your core staff. So if you were hired onto that unit by the hospital, then you will be the last ones to float. And mainly, the main reason behind that, I know I touched on it in another video, is it's all about budget. So each floor has their own budget. Travelers do cost more when it comes to budget as opposed to the salary that they pay like a regular staff nurse. Does that mean that I'm floating every day that I go into work? No. Am I floating more often than the nurses that actually work in that floor and were hired at that unit? Yes, I am. But you never float out of your area of expertise. Like I'm never gonna float to ICU. You might float lower. So say I'm a PCU nurse, I might float to med surg, or an ICU nurse might float to like a PCU or a med surg unit. The 8th thing I wish I knew before becoming a travel nurse was your contract can be canceled at any time. Anytime. So you definitely want to make sure that you have like some type of cancellation guarantee written into your contract before you sign it. But this was happening a lot, especially with the crisis assignments or the crisis rates they were selling at the beginning of this whole COVID crisis. A lot of nurses, especially in Seattle, or not only in Seattle, but especially the ED or like ICU nurses, they were coming out here for these crisis rates, and then the hospitals would just go ahead and suddenly cancel their contracts because they either overestimated the needs that they needed, or they weren't having enough patients, or they had a low census, so they didn't need as many nurses. So I've heard stories of like people coming out here, traveling all the way out here, signing a lease, and like 3 days or a week before their contract even started, they were notified that it was canceled. So that is one thing with travel nursing that I guess is like a con maybe, is that you don't always have a guaranteed job. Your job can be taken away from you at any moment, but that could happen anywhere, right? Like you could always be fired or laid off and you don't know. Definitely always travel with a savings. Fact number 9, which I wish I knew before becoming a travel nurse, was pay packaging. How do I ask for a higher pay? Am I getting a higher pay? Am I getting lowballed? Like, what are the ins and outs of negotiating pay and such like that? So one thing I will always recommend is when you are signing up to become a travel nurse, or it's your first time taking your first assignment, definitely sign up with at least a minimum of 3 agencies. That way, when you do get a pay package, one, you can get 3 different offers, so you can kind of see which one is offering you more, and 2, you just want to see what's out there. So you don't always want to commit yourself to one company, because you can always say that you want to negotiate and haggle with the company or your recruiter, but they're not always going to give you that higher pay. So you do always want to have second options, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're most likely traveling for the money, not because you want to be with this particular company. So it's just very imperative that you search around and know your rates. Another tip that I will also give is, before you even like negotiate pay or start going into pay packaging and deals like that, go ahead and download an app. I downloaded NurseFly, and basically I didn't sign up for any jobs through that app. You definitely can, but it's just a really simple app that will give you going rates for contracts in that area. So you'll be able to see if the pay package that they're offering you is either hitting below target or above target for like the median of pay packages in that area. Another tip is, when you join that Facebook group that I told you guys about in my first video, sometimes nurses will also post their pay package. So you'll be able to see pay packages, what they're offering, a breakdown from that company, what they were giving in regards to pay. And you'll be able to kind of determine whether or not the pay package that you're getting is either low or high. So a lot of the times nurses will post, hey, like this is the pay package I got. Is it high? Is it low? Like, what do you guys think? And then all the nurses will go and they'll comment, oh yeah, like that's what I got when I was there, or no, you're definitely being lowballed. You should renegotiate or sign with another recruiter, go with another company, A, B, and C, whichever. So like I said, utilize your Facebook groups, because they will give you more like peer-to-peer feedback than you will get anywhere else. Also, when it does come up to talking about your pay package with your recruiter, once you actually interview with your hospital, that's when you can go ahead and finalize your pay package. So before you actually agree to anything, sign anything, make anything binding, your recruiter should go ahead and ask you what PTO dates you might want or like have in mind. So when I signed this contract, I knew that I wanted to be going to Bali, and then I also had like a Vegas trip planned, but I didn't end up going to Vegas. I didn't end up going anywhere because COVID canceled everything. So all I had to do was tell them my days off that I wanted, and then the hospital will either say, yes, we can do that, or no, we can't. So I don't believe I had anyone tell me no, because basically all they ended up doing was just adding on another week at the end of my contract, taking off the week that they had given me. So I made sure and I had those dates in writing. And then in regards to like PTO, I couldn't accrue PTO yet because I wasn't able to accrue it until like I think 90 hours I had worked. I'm not too sure on the exact time frame, but I knew I wouldn't be able to accrue any in my first travel contract. So my next assignment, I'll be able to accrue PTO so that I'll be able to get paid when I do have these times off. Now, I was still going to be getting paid my meals and incidentals while I was taking this time off. So I still would be getting some type of money in my paycheck, but I just wouldn't be getting paid the hourly salary of actually working the hours at the hospital. And then in regards to negotiating, so I spoke a little bit earlier about doing your research and knowing what pay packages were good, or knowing what pay packages were competitive. So you really just have to be your own advocate and know your worth. If you have a recruiter who's trying to offer you, say, like a starting salary of like $1,200, including like all your meals and incidentals and everything, and you've looked online and you've seen pay packages go for anywhere from like $1,400 to $1,600 a week, don't be afraid to ask for more. So you can always tell your recruiter, hey, I don't think this amount is working for me. I was hoping we could do better. That amount, I don't think that would be worth the travel or my time. Stuff like that. Just hinting at, one thing to know, when you do ask for a higher pay or an increase in pay, make sure it's reasonable. And two, just because you ask for it doesn't mean you're always going to get it, but if you don't ask, you won't get. So definitely ask. And like I said, just make sure it's nothing too outrageous. Like, I want $3,000 a week. No, because no one's gonna do that. And the 10th thing I wish I knew before starting travel nursing, this is kind of like a 2-for-1 deal. So it's like 10, part 1, part B. So the first thing I wish I knew was that every job is an interview. So whenever I'm on an assignment, I'm always like on my P's and Q's, being the best possible nurse that I could be. Not that I wouldn't be either ways. But basically, although you've gotten the job, you also want to keep that job. So if you ever want to extend at that facility, the hiring manager does have the option to say, like, I don't know, Tylisha wasn't that great of a nurse, so I don't think we want her again. Or, oh my gosh, Tylisha was great. She did this, this, and that. Of course, we would love to have her back. So just know that. Don't burn your bridges while you're there. Just know you're always being watched, whether it's by like your hiring managers or the other staff there. Also, even if you don't want to stay at that facility, the hiring manager or whoever like your charge is, sometimes it depends. It might be like the manager or the charge nurse that worked with you while you were there. They are the ones who will be your reference for your next assignment. So say I'm done with my assignment here in Washington and I want to go to like Denver, then my agency will be like, hey, we'll need a quick referral from your previous hiring or your previous manager, just so we can make sure that you left in good standing. And that's kind of the way that the company kind of does quality control as well. On the flip side, with it always being an interview, you actually have to go in and like gain the trust from your fellow peers, your fellow nurses. So yes, I'm a traveler. I just showed up on this floor, but does that mean I'm a good nurse? They don't know. So you kind of have to prove yourself to your peers as well. All right, well, that's all that I have for you. If any of you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I have no problem making a part 3 if you would like. I love answering your guys' questions. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in another video.